Welcome to Boots in Baltimore. I'm LeeAnn Blanchard, and I'm here with Leslie Howard, attorney at law. Welcome.
Hi, LeeAnn. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So tell us a little bit about your professional background and your practice areas.
I've been attorney for over 25 years now, and have a solo general practice. But since the pandemic, I've been specializing mostly in probate administration and estate planning.
Interesting. So what attracted you to the law?
Actually, my mother, who was active in union organizing and labor politics, always said she wanted a lawyer in the family. And by me being the youngest boy, I guess the charge kind of fell on me. So, every son loves his mother. And so, in order to please mom, I became a lawyer.
Everybody else got to pick their professions first, and you were stuck with it.
Yeah, it kind of fell in my lap. But I was always also considered the peacemaker in my family. So, it also came natural as well.
That's wonderful. So what is the most rewarding part about being an attorney? Is it getting conflicts resolved or the people that you meet? What do you think?
Well, for me, it's always being able to help people. Again, I specialize in picking the right client, the right case for the right services. And because I am a boutique law firm, I can give each client that very special attention that their particular case interest needs. And I'm always happy when we have a successful outcome and the client can come back and say, Attorney Howard, you really helped me with my situation.
Hmm. I can see that. I think it would also be very comforting for people to be able to deal with such an experienced attorney directly. They're not all being handled by junior associates and that you have the expertise and the ability to meet with people directly.
Yes, especially since the pandemic, we've taken our law practice online virtually, and it's given us the ability to meet with clients across the state. And fortunately, the state of Maryland, under Governor Moore's leadership, has encouraged the state judiciary to schedule virtual hearings as often as practical. It's allowed the court system to enter into this new gold area where now more people can have access to the legal system, and they don't always have to worry about having to travel in order to get there.
I can imagine. Um, I I have some friends who've had some legal trouble and in other states, and it is just untenable to have to be going back and forth, especially when the cases last for a really long time. You mentioned that your expertise is in, well, you have lots of expertises. Let's not, you know a lot about a lot. But recently you've been doing mostly probate and estate work. And how long is an average probate case? I mean, I imagine that being virtual makes that so much less time consuming for people because don't they last quite a while?
Well, unfortunately, fortunately, depending on your perspective, there are statutory deadlines in a probate administrative case, typically 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year is the kind of time frame that you're looking at. And of course, the more complicated the estate, the longer time it can take in order to complete the probate process. I've had some cases it may take as long as 2 or 3 years in order to complete the probate process. But one of the things that we've recently done is that we've added mediation to our law practice. And we found that, particularly in cases in which family members are involved in complicated situations, that it's not always a good thing to have to go into the regular court system, which is set up as an adversary system, and families then have to fight over inheritance, or in a family court matter, it might be for child support or custody or something of that nature. And the problem with that is you're still going to have to deal with those family members after the litigation is over. And so I found that mediation is a much more less stressful way for family members in particular to resolve their conflicts without having to beat each other up. And it provides for alternative dispute resolution to their problems that allows them to voluntarily arrive at a solution that they all can agree on because they've all worked to achieve the agreement.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you engage an attorney, their reason for being there is to protect your interests. And sometimes, like you said, in those situations where you're going to have to deal with those people later, that animosity that can arise at the expense that can arise, that's really off-putting for a lot of people who definitely still disagree and need to somehow get that resolved. But there is this alternate method that might be so much better that a lot of people just don't realize is available. So if someone wanted to have a mediation instead of going to court, how would that work? How do they do that?
They just simply have to request it. Fortunately, most of the courts in the Baltimore metropolitan region do offer mediation as an alternative dispute resolution service. They are court-appointed mediators, particularly in family court matters, and they're starting also to use them in estate and probate matters as well, because even the court recognizes that it's a much better use of the court's time to try to resolve these matters amicably rather than through a long drawn out litigation process.
So we've talked about when maybe you should not engage a lawyer and go the mediation route instead. But what are some times when people really should get a lawyer but tend not to?
I find in my experience that unfortunately the old adage that if you represent yourself in court, then you have a poor client is still quite pervasive. A lot of people intention and very intelligently think that they can represent themselves in court. But what I like to remind clients is that while you might have the intelligence and you think you know the situation better than anyone else, it's also can be detrimental because you're emotionally involved, invested in the situation as well. And you can let your emotions get the best of you in a confrontational situation in a courtroom to the detriment of your case. And so it's better to have a dispassionate, objective legal professional to represent you when you go into court, to make sure that you're getting the best possible representation so you can have the best possible outcome for your case.
Well, I imagine, like you said, even highly intelligent people who've studied law or, like you said, have a great handle on what the situation is, they still might not be familiar with procedure. They might miss deadlines. They might not file things correctly. They might not get everything, all their ducks in a row. And so maybe their best evidence isn't even part of the case. And so they would probably benefit from having somebody who knows that system, knows where to go and how to get help and how to file everything, how to make sure everything is the way that it needs to be done in order for it all to go to plan. And I can't imagine anyone trying to, as you said, emotionally disengage and also try to learn the law at the same time as they're trying to fight something. That seems like a disaster.
Oftentimes it is, and unfortunately, a lot of times people call me after they've already gone to court to try to represent themselves, and then they somehow want the attorney to wave a magic wand and make it all go away. And what they've really done is they've complicated the case. And obviously, a case that has to go to an appeal process is going to be much more expensive and much more time consuming than if the person had consulted with an attorney uh, initially. And the benefit is that most attorneys do, and I know in my practice, we offer free initial consultations. You can call me on the phone, we'll talk about your case, we'll find out what your options are, and you can at least make an informed decision before you get into the courtroom and you're facing the judge and the consequences. So I always advise clients to consult with an attorney and take advantage of the free consultations that are generally available.
Mm-hmm. Well, and in reviewing your background, you have such a wealth of knowledge in so many practice areas that although, as you said, certain attorneys specialize in certain things, it seems like you would be the obvious choice as a first stop for people, because if it were a case that maybe was a little bit outside your practice area or something that you didn't want to handle, you could still refer another attorney to it. And that would at least help people understand, again, what their options are and how they should be approaching this, and maybe even an estimate of costs and length of time that it would take to resolve this. And they would just be so much better consumers of law services after consulting with you.
Oh, absolutely. I actually belong to an organization that's online called Just Answer. And I'm one of their assistants, and people can call in and ask their legal questions and get general legal advice, not on an attorney-client basis, but just basically, as you said, to outline the parameters of the case, uh, perhaps direct them to some local resources and give them a sense of what the cost and the time it might be in order to litigate an issue that they're facing, or whether or not it makes sense to try to litigate it at all. Again, I love talking to people, and I also love helping people. I'm always giving out free legal advice. In fact, sometimes my wife chats me and says, "Oh, you give away too much information," but I think that's why the good Lord put me here. And I choose it. I'm trying to get into heaven. So the rent that I have to pay on earth is to help people along the way.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And I, in anticipation of this interview, I was thinking about my own situation and how unexpectedly complicated it really is. I'm single and have one son who's adopted, but he has a sister that I didn't adopt because she had aged out by the time he was adopted. And so I have a son who's my legal heir. I have my nieces and nephews who were my heirs before my son came along. I have his sister who I love and would love to do something for, but is not my legal heir. And I have, again, it's this complicated situation where you wouldn't think it necessarily would be, and yet it is. And so I think about how people, I think part of what's really important is helping people understand that preparation is needed. If you want things to go if you want things to go a certain way, you have to lay all that groundwork well in advance. Because, as you said, once you're in the middle of it, it's too late, especially in probate and estate cases. If you've written your will a certain way, you're no longer there to change it. Or,
I tell people all the time, don't wait until it's too late. Actually, in the generation that we're in now, we will see the biggest wealth transfer in the history of humankind, from baby boomers to future generations, Generation Z and Generation X, what have you. And unfortunately, so many people don't take the time to plan out their estate, final estate plans. So they don't take the time to create a will. You need also a power of attorney as well as a medical living will, or what we call sometimes a medical power of attorney. All of these three documents can help to smooth out the transition from the point that you become incapacitated and can no longer take care of your business affairs to the point that you're in hospital and you can't make medical decisions for yourself. And then finally, once we pass on, which we all are going to do at some point, everybody has an expiration date. We just don't know when it is. And it can make things for your family members and the loved ones that you leave behind so much simpler if we would just take the time to figure out what our final estate plans are going to be, and then leave those documents behind so that our family members and loved ones know exactly what our directions are. And it cuts down on the disagreements, on the confusion, on the expense, on the time, and it can just really make a world of difference. Your loved ones are at a time where they're grieving for you, they're most vulnerable emotionally. Why complicate things by not having put your plans in order? And then they're trying to figure out what is it that my loved one would have wanted at this moment. It's really not fair to them, and it's not fair to yourself. So again, we urge folks, don't wait until it's too late. Make your estate plans today. And we're here to help you with a free consultation to get you started.
Yeah, I agree. When my dad passed away, it wasn't unexpected. He had a chronic illness, and so we had time to do things and say goodbye. And I'm so grateful that we had those conversations in advance, that we knew what his wishes were, and we were able to have what I considered a really beautiful experience where the family came together and there were no arguments because we all knew exactly what was supposed to happen, and we all knew what roles each of us had in making that happen. And it was very smooth. The family came together instead of being pulled apart. I was recently talking to a financial planner about these types of things as well. And I was saying, like you, it's hard enough to be grieving without adding greed to the mix.
No,
And
absolutely.
yeah, it was lovely. My own experience was quite lovely because we just focused on grieving, and there were plans in place. So there was money for the funeral and the burial and all of the things, and the disposition of assets was very, very calm and smooth. And it was lovely. In fact, my grandma had set an excellent example of clearing out her house in advance, and she labeled all of her jewelry. You could open a box and see exactly who that was supposed to go to. And she really set a good example for us of how it should be in families. And so I'm really grateful to both of them for that legacy of thoughtfulness, I guess you could say.
Yeah, yeah. It's again, it's a gift to your loved ones to have prepared your estate plans in advance so that at a time, again, when they're most emotionally vulnerable, it's not complicated by this very complex and time-consuming legal process. Another thing that people should also consider is that if you want to protect your assets from a probate process, then you might want to also consider setting up some type of a trust. Trust can be more complicated and a little more costly, but for those who want to avoid the probate process, it's a good way to shelter your assets. And also, especially if you have special needs children or special need adult children, and you want to qualify for Medicaid or medical assistance, families need to know that there's a 5-year look back period in order for you to be able to shelter your income and your assets from a Medicare take back. So again, you need to be proactive about setting up a special needs trust and other types of trusts to shelter your income from both government intervention or seizure of your assets when you pass on.
Yes, I also set up a trust because, as I mentioned, my situation was really different, complicated. When I first adopted my son, of course, he was a minor, but he was old enough to be to have a say in where he wanted to go. If something happened to me because I'm single, where would this kid go? I certainly didn't want to send him back to foster care. That would have been horrible. And so we had to have this conversation about, well, where would you live? With whom would you live? And how that would play out. And I think that's another really neglected area of this idea of estate planning is who is going to be the custodian of your children, and separately, who's going to be custodian of the money? Because in my case, I knew that I wanted my son to go live with this brother and his family because the children's ages were about right. And that brother, they'd really bonded and that really was going to work out. But I knew that my sister-in-law would have just treated him like a member of the family, and she would have not accessed my assets to help. You know, she would have just taken him in, and I wanted to make sure that my money went to go support my kid. And I knew that my oldest brother would crack the whip and send her a check if that were to happen. And so I appreciated having the flexibility and being able to have someone that could do both the money side and the kids side. But people who don't necessarily have that kind of deep bench when it comes to their family, or if they have, you know, if they'd rather have friends take care of their children, or they'd rather have someone who's unrelated, not blood related, doesn't have legal title to their kids, that's another area that I'm really passionate about, making sure that people understand this is important. You don't want your kids to be abandoned to a system that's not going to
Well,
do right by them.
I did a lot of work in working with children in need of assistance, or what they call center work, and these are children from abandoned and neglected families. And they've experienced a lot of personal trauma in their lives already. And the last thing we want to subject them to is that once they do find that forever home, that the adopted parents haven't taken the time to plan for the eventuality and the child has to go out on their own. So again, we caution folks, don't wait until it's too late, but to make these plans in advance. And consulting with a lawyer in advance can make all the difference in the world in how your life plays out. You can address these issues before they become a crisis. You can manage your assets in a way that you are able to preserve your wealth and pass it on to the next generation. And you can also avoid the mental anguish that can arise from the stress of having to deal with all of these complicated issues all at the same time that you find yourself at your emotional, most vulnerable period in your life. Again, we encourage folks to give us a call, take advantage of that free telephone consultation. We're available most days of the week. And we're also available through our website at www.lesliecarlhowardesquire.com. You can go to our website, learn more about our law practice, our history and our experience, and you can also set up a case file for yourself and leave us an email message, and we'll follow up and get in touch with you and take care of your legal needs. And you can do all of that without leaving the comfort of your home. We try to make it as convenient as we possibly can for folks. And even if you're not tech savvy, give us a call and we'll hold your hand and walk you through the process and make sure that you get the satisfaction that you're looking for. Because at the law office of Leslie Cole Howard, we specialize in helping you.
Well, you're very involved in community programs, especially in the Rosemont neighborhood. Will you tell us a little bit more about your charitable work?
Yes, that's an avocation that's near and dear to my heart. About, let's say like maybe 8 to 10 years ago, I came back to the Rosemont neighborhood. It's an area where initially I had a starter home, and as my children grew and became adults, we moved away. But then I got time to retire, and I decided I didn't want the big house and all of the maintenance that goes along with that. We decided to move back to our starter home in Rosemont. And I've been here now for quite some time, and it's a community in West Baltimore, and not necessarily the most pristine area, I'll say. It has a lot of challenges, one of which there is no recreation centers in the neighborhood. And so for that reason, we got together with some of our neighbors and church leaders and people in the ministry, and we started an interfaith coalition that's known as the Rosemont Community Interfaith Coalition. We're a group of 10 churches and ministries, and our mission is to provide alternative recreational and educational activities for youth in the Rosemont community and their families. Coming up this Labor Day, September the 2nd, which is a Monday, we're going to be sponsoring our annual community festival. And it's also our back to school event. And we've been promoting this event, probably for the next maybe 3 or 4 years now. So we want folks to come out. It'll be in the 800 block of Franklin Town Road. We'll be blocking off the street. And we'll also be using the park that's adjacent to the street at 840 Franklin Town Road as well. And there'll be music, food, games, city agencies, and resources, information for the entire family. So we hope folks will come out. It's a free event, and there'll be quite a bit for folks to do and to see and to learn. And we're just excited about the opportunity to share all of this with our neighbors and friends.
Sounds wonderful. It sounds like a lot of fun too.
Yes, absolutely. It's fun for the entire family.
Did you say this is the first time that you've done this, or it's
Actually, every year we try to do some type of a special event in Rosemont. In years past, we've done back to school events. We give out school supplies. We've adopted schools in the community. We had a partnership with Catherine Johnson Elementary Middle School. We give veteran lockers for their locks. We even help to purchase school uniforms. Any way that we can be supportive and helpful for the children in the neighborhood, that's what we like to do. We take them on excursions. This year, we're operating a work site for youth workers, and we're giving 10 young people an opportunity to be employed and to earn money over the summer so that they can have money that they can hopefully use to help them go back to school. But we try to find ways to engage young people in a variety of positive, constructive activities, particularly throughout the year and over the summer months as well.
That sounds amazing. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we are 501c3 tax exempt. We have a Facebook page as well as a website. The website is rcicbaltimore.org, and our Facebook page is Rosemont Community Interfaith Coalition. So folks can go to either one of those and learn more about our organization on those sites.
So you're looking for volunteers and donations, maybe in-kind donations?
All of the above, yeah.
You'll take whatever you can get.
Especially volunteers.
Well, thank you so much for offering yourself as a resource. There are no downsides to getting quality advice from an expert like yourself.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure talking with you. And again, um, we do appreciate you sharing this information and helping us to get this knowledge out to the general public, because again, the largest wealth transfer in the history of humanity is taking place now, and people need to don't wait until it's too late.
Well, thank you again. This has been LeeAnn Blanchard with Boots in Baltimore. Please call Leslie Howard if you need anything, any advice. If you're considering any of these topics that we've talked about, or if you have another legal issue that you would like an expert advice on or opinion on, he's the guy.
Well,
Stay
the
tuned.
number is 443-759-8932. And again, you can call us any day, Monday through Friday, up till 6 p.m. for a free telephone consultation.
All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks. Bye.